With that on radical Islam and its association to terrorism, Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, I think before finishing the final conclusions to 9/11 that it's important we take an extensive look back at the official story to the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and how it all ties together, and possibly even into another event. In telling the story with the climate before and after the bombing, as well as the investigation, remaining segments may at times use scenes from the 1997 HBO movie Path to Paradise to reenact some of the prominent figures involved and be narrated by some of them themselves.
To try and understand why these blunders and failures occurred and why no investigation was made, we need to go to Brooklyn, only 3 miles away from the World Trade Center towers in Manhattan. This is where one finds the little Al Farouk Mosque. At the time, it was home to the Al-Kifar Refugee Center, which is no other than the American outpost for the Afghan Services Bureau in Peshawar, led by Abdullah Azzam. Azzam has just been assassinated in Peshawar. Soon afterwards, Mustafa Shalabi, in charge of the Brooklyn branch, is also killed. Both men had many enemies in common, starting with Abdel Rahman. Known as the Blind Sheik and very active in hiring fighters for Afghanistan, he is one of the leaders of the Egyptian Islamic Jihad group along with al-Zawahiri. Shalabi's assassination in Brooklyn came after a fight with the Blind Sheik. Among the mosque's regulars are a number of individuals who train together, handling weapons and perfecting combat skills. Officially, they have every intention of joining the jihad in Afghanistan. Their activities do not seem to worry local authorities.
New York, November 5th, 1990. This 34-year-old Egyptian named El Said Nossair dons the yarmulke of an observant Jew and pockets a .357 Magnum revolver. Nossair enters a ballroom at this Midtown Manhattan hotel. Rabbi Meir Kahane, head of the tiny but violent Jewish Defense League, is finishing a speech to his followers. As Kahane steps down from the podium, Nossair pulls out the gun, fires twice, and a fatal shot enters the rabbi's throat. Nossair flees the hotel, but an armed postal officer shoots him, and police arrest him.
For the public, and largely for law enforcement, the killing of Kahane was portrayed as one crazy Arab killing one crazy Jew.
FBI and police searched Nossair's home here in Cliffside Park, New Jersey. They find more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition, bomb-making formulas, U.S. military training manuals, and a hit list of other prominent Jews. They haul 47 boxes of this material to this police precinct. But the authorities, the DA, the NYPD, the FBI, overlook most of it. November 1991. Members of the Al Farouk Mosque are raising funds for the defense of El Said Nossair. Nossair is about to go on trial for the murder of Rabbi Meir Kahane. Outspoken civil rights attorney William Kunstler is hired to defend Nossair. Eyewitnesses testify they saw Nossair crouched by Kahane holding a gun. But Kunstler convinces the jury that no scientific evidence links Nossair to the shooting.
El Said Nossair was the young Palestinian so outraged by the poison that Kahane spread and was spreading throughout America and throughout Israel.
13 years ago, he moved to Israel, where he now crusades to throw all Arabs out of that country.
The Arab is a cancer in our midst. And you don't coexist with a cancer.
That he engaged in an act of political assassination, sort of Palestinian rage. I think that was the narrative that Bill had. But then Nossair insisted he didn't do it. That in fact he wasn't the gunman. He didn't pull the trigger.
They went in with that defense and it carried because nobody could say they saw him. And all the excitement, they saw as usual nothing. And they proved nothing. And that happened. It caused riots all over the world.
You know, the guy had powder burned supposedly on his hand, and Bill got that guy acquitted. So he was obviously an incredible lawyer, but people were pretty mad at that, you know, very angry about what happened with Nossair.
Roger Stavis. He was appointed defense lawyer for El Nossair, Rabbi Kahane's killer. Stavis's line of defense is simple. His client is part of an organization that is supported by the U.S. Secret Service. his search begins, digging up confidential documents. His investigation sheds new light on America's political agenda in Afghanistan.
As soon as I began work on the case and looked at the documents that were taken from Mr. Nossair's home, I noticed all things about Afghanistan, for Afghanistan. I noticed documents from Fort Bragg, JFK Special Warfare Center. I noted manuals about training, firing, manuals about identifying Soviet aircraft and armors and armor, armored vehicles. All of these things, and if I could show that the people were focused on Afghanistan and aiding the Mujahideen rebels, which was part of United States foreign policy in the 1980s, I could demonstrate that they were not waging a war of urban terrorism against the United States, but that they were, as I stated in my summation at the trial, they were on Team America.
The Egyptian is found guilty only of a minor weapons charge.